meeting is being recorded.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome and thank you for attending the free event sponsored by Colorado Safety Association. My name is Tatiana Chapman. I also go by Tanya. I'm a training and safety consultant here at Colorado Safety Association, and I'll be facilitating the information in today's safety stand down to prevent falls in construction. The presentation is going to go for about 45 minutes. I just want to remind everybody to please keep yourself muted and unless we open it up for open conversation, discussion, or questions. During the presentation, if you think of any questions or you want to share a comment, please use the chat function. I'll do the best I can to keep an eye on the chat box and respond in that method. You know, everything that's we're going to talk about today, you know, whether it's in commercial or residential work, your perspective and your ideas for solutions are very important. And let's see, I think that's it. I really like it if I can see people in the video, but no need to share your video. So I always like to share that piece too. So we'll go ahead and get started this morning. So why are we talking about National Safety Stand Down? Why is OSHA promoting this and other organizations as well, like CDC, NIOSH, and a couple others that we're going to notice as we go through the PowerPoint? Well, that's because falls kill, and you don't have to fall very far to actually be killed. It can just even be a few feet. These falls that are in the construction industry account for 1/3. Yeah, actually 1/3. I did a calculation yesterday as I was putting my numbers on the board, and I think it came up at 34%, which to me just seems extremely high. 1/3 of the on-the-job injury deaths in this industry. So each year in the US, more than 200 construction workers are killed and thousands are seriously injured in falls, many different kinds. So this national campaign really is designed to help us identify the situations that people are getting killed from, so that we can plan ahead, provide the right equipment, and train people. This image that I have on the slide right now is great. It's the one that OSHA put together for this year. So you can always take a snapshot of the little QRC code and pull up additional information on their website. Also, just so you know, everything that I share today, I will be sending out to you in an email so that you'll be able to access that information and resources and hopefully take an additional step by me sharing this information with you today, that you can then share this information with your employees and really get some input from them on ways that they can improve or take to note ways that they can work safer, right? So this is what we're going to be talking about today. We'll look at the fall statistics and really understand every number represents a lost life. We've got a website we'll go to, and you can actually hone in on the incidents, what happened, etc. And it's by area, which is really interesting. We'll look at and highlight the fall hazards that are out there in the job sites, what we can do to prevent them, and again, how to prevent becoming one of these statistics. So I'm going to go ahead and start this video. It's very short, but I think that it does help to reinforce why OSHA is doing this stand down annually. Here we go. All right, super quick, right? Super duper quick. But again, I really like to focus on this. I personally don't know anybody who has died at work, but it happens. I think the number right now, based on the 2020 statistics we're going to show on the next screen. But when we think about each person that dies at work, that person is could be somebody's son, somebody's brother, could be a wife, a mother, a friend, a husband, a sister, a daughter, a cousin, grandparent. It doesn't matter, but it's a person, and it represents a relationship with the rest of us that are out there. These things that we look at and the things that can happen, can really, affect the families who are left behind. So we really just want to take a look and remember not to be in such a rush when we're doing our job, and ensure that we're properly planning so that everybody goes home safe at the end of the day. And I like that. I actually have tried to change my verbiage on this, that they arrive home safe at the end of the day, right? They leave home and they get home the same way that they left. So super important to me, and it is to you. That's why you're attending today. So here's this dashboard. We could spend a ton of time honing in on this, looking at different incidents. But again, when you get the PDF presentation for this, you'll have the link, and you can actually go to the CPWR website, and you can take a look at all these different incidents. I think they go back to maybe 2010. I'm not sure exactly how far it goes back, but you can see this is across the United States. And when you look at this, the number of fatalities that have occurred by state, Texas has the highest, California is the next highest. And really, Colorado's numbers are much lower, which is good, but we do have a lot of construction going on in our area. I don't know if anybody's noticed how many construction sites there are, but you can see it as you're driving around Denver, can't you? You can see all the cranes that are up and about. So take this to heart. We want to ensure that everybody makes it home safe at the end of the day. The new statistics that came out in September of 2020, 4,764 workers died on the job. That's 4,764 people that didn't make it home and left that morning to go to work and didn't make it home. As we look at that number, it did drop considerably from the year before. I think COVID, it was in the middle of that somewhere, so that could be why. I think that number is about 14 people a day. But of the 4,764 workers, 1,008 died in the construction industry. That's a high number. That's 21% of this number that died in construction. And then we look at, if we take it specifically to falls, there's that 34% that I mentioned earlier. So 34% of the people who died that year died due to falls in construction. So we really need to take this to heart and look at what we can do to make a difference. Here's another great infographic that shows us the causes of death from fall. Like, where are people falling from? What is happening? What is causing these deaths? Where are they falling from? And you can see some of these right here. Rooftops, 31%. It's a high number, especially if you're thinking about what kind of work's being done on rooftops, right? Is it changing out or putting a new roof on a home? Is it residential work? Good questions to ask, right? We've got 15% using scaffolding. Scaffolding is supposed to make our work safer, and yet 15% of these numbers represent people falling off scaffolding. Ladders, super high number, 24%, right? And we use ladders every single day. So what can we do to identify how to be safer on ladders? Okay. And we know we're supposed to be working safe. So why are these incidents still happening? We're going to talk about that in just a little bit as we get through this. So what can you do? What can any of us do to help prevent falls in our industry? What do you think? Anybody want to comment? I'll open it up. Everybody's going to be quiet. Oh, Brian can't comment because his microphone's not working. So he's lucky today. But what can you do to prevent falls? You know, as I go through this list, think about how we can make a difference, you know, encourage you know, have our workers ensure that it's an expectation, that's the word I was looking for, that they keep their workspaces clean. They keep the floors clean. They keep tools out of the way, cords out of the way, anything like that that people could slip, trip, or fall on. What do we do in fall prevention? You know, are we using scaffolding properly? Do we have guardrails in areas where people might fall to a lower level? Are our employees using the personal fall arrest systems appropriately? Do they have the right equipment? Have they been trained how to inspect it, look at it, and wear it correctly? You know, how about the idea that, oh, look, we have somebody who wants to comment. Go ahead, Trish.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things also I think that we sometimes forget is staging our work to minimize the use of ladders in particular. And I remember when URS did a study and they found that staging the construction project so that the stairs were installed sooner in the project was a leading indicator for fewer falls on the job and reduced use of ladders. So I always thought that was interesting. And I think sometimes it's having the wrong ladder or using a ladder when there's another opportunity for something else could be something.
Oh, I like that. That's something that probably many of us haven't thought about, right? How can we get rid of the ladder, right, sooner and make the workplace safer instead of using the ladder? I like that. Thank you. I like the hands up piece too. That was great. How about this idea of being your brother's keeper? Has anybody heard of that before? I heard about it in the oil and gas industry. I like this one. And I like it if we could really think about how we can watch out for one another. You know, do we feel like we can speak up if we see somebody doing something unsafe, right? Many times this can make a difference on the attitude of the workers on the work site. Okay, so you know, so I put that, lose the attitude, watch out for one another, speak up so that we all go home at the end of the day. I like this one as well. You know, use effective means to move materials. If you need to use equipment to move materials, do that safely. You know, I've seen many people carry equipment and things up ladders to get on a roof or to another level. We can't maintain three points of contact if we're carrying things as we go up a ladder. So that's another thing to think about. And then also what Trish said in proper ladder use and trying to minimize ladder use. Okay. Also, we want to ensure that, you know, we fix unsafe conditions. Many times when you get to some construction sites, we're really good in the beginning about, you know, watching out for the hazards. And then the longer that the job goes on, some of those fixes become a hazard again. So we need to make sure that we're updating those as long as the construction site is still going. Also doing proper equipment inspections is going to be important. So, you know, ensuring that we're using our equipment properly. I don't know if anybody noticed on that infographic where there was a man standing on the forks of a telehandler on the site. So we want to make sure that we're using it appropriately. Pre-job planning, okay? Another very effective way for us to reduce the likelihood that somebody could be affected by incidents. I asked my son has been in construction off and on for many years. And I asked him, what do you do? What do you do every day to help, keep your mind intact and make sure that you're working safely? And this is his quote right here. He said, remind yourself every day about what you hold dear to your heart. And he said, that's what keeps him safe every day. So there you go. There's got me all teary eyed, but that's my family, right? So you get to create your own safety. And I think that that's huge, that we do have to own our own safety and make sure that we're working as safe as possible when we go out there. Whew, didn't think that was going to happen. So think fall prevention at those heights where personal fall arrest system is insufficient or ineffective, and it may allow you to hit a lower level. We're going to look at this list here in just a moment, and I'll be sending the article that this list came from as after our presentation today. So you'll get this and you can take a look at it. But I kind of wanted to hone in on the use of fall protection, or actually the misuse of fall protection. What are people doing when they use fall protection that's causing incidents or causing deaths anyways, right? Here's the top 10 misuses. So they might be using rebar where they're attaching to as an anchor point. Inappropriate anchorage connections. Insufficient, right? Anchoring below the D-ring, the dorsal D-ring on the back of the fall harness. So, that's when kind of like in this picture, right? They're actually anchoring below them instead of directly above where they're working. The confusing twin leg energy absorbing self-retracting devices, they are confusing. And if you're not using it in the appropriate situation, it can become, it cannot do what it's supposed to do in keeping you from falling or hitting the next level. Using damaged or recalled equipment, right? We need to make sure that as we have that equipment out there and our workers are using it, that we're keeping a pulse on, has something been recalled? Do we need to assess what we have, and should we remove that equipment? Improper fit, man, this is something, you can see every day. And when you're working in Colorado, this can be challenging, especially when it might be super cold in the morning. And you've got your workers have their fall harnesses over jackets and coats and things like that. And then as the day goes on, it gets hot. So they might take their coat off or their sweatshirt off and then not refit their fall harness to their body. So improper fit is a huge way that people can still get hurt, even if, once they're in a fall. Also misuse of leading edge self-retracting devices. You want to make sure that you've got the appropriate leading edge devices, warning line systems, and then the last one is poorly designed horizontal lifelines. So you want to make sure if your people use fall protection, that you take a look at this list and really identify if you have those issues on your site or with your employees. Here's another photo that you'll see in just a second that I took, but make sure you know your equipment. Read the information that that comes with your safety gear. Do you have the correct components? Okay. Did you cover this in training? Okay. Did you talk about it in any type of pre-job safety meeting? Ask questions. If something doesn't look right, investigate why. Review the paperwork. Get a safety representative involved to help you choose the right equipment. And this is a photo I took. I worked with a group of guys that were being trained to utilize a man lift, and they were going to be working super high, like 100 to 120 feet up in the air. They have this great equipment, They had great fall harnesses, but they had this component inappropriately connected to the back of their harness. They actually had this ring right here connected to the D-ring, and that's not how it was designed to be connected. So it looked funny. I had never seen it before. It looked weird. I asked questions. Every single one of them had the bag that this connector came in, and we were able to look through the information and understand that it actually had to be installed directly to the harness underneath the D-ring. That's exactly, and so this picture right here is how we fixed it to make sure that it was attached appropriately. So it wasn't designed to be taken off once it was attached to the fall harness. So that was great. All right, so here's some resources for small businesses. This is from the CPWR website, but really understanding if you are a small business, what can you do? Where do you start, right? Sometimes that's the hardest part about considering how to improve the safety measures that your employees are utilizing, right? There's a form through this link that you'll get, and you can go take a look at it. A simple form to develop your own fall prevention plan if you don't have one, okay? I think that this infographic kind of hits home when we look at construction companies that have fewer than 20 employees account for 75% of the fatal falls. That's a large number when we think about smaller companies, okay? So I think we have to just really, if you have a smaller company, take the time to identify how to make a safer workplace. You can look also on this website, they have a checklist that you can use on your job site. And it's just something to help you engage into recognizing the hazards that can cause falls, and then the ways you can prevent those hazards from causing or being a part of the fall. And again, there's many, many, many other resources on this website for you to take a look at as well.
Hey, Tanya.
Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, go ahead. Thank you.
Understanding that the small businesses are the leading source of falls, you know, a lot of them don't have the resources, or they don't understand, or they're not doing training. But
yeah,
even if it's not your company, that's a small contractor, that really leads to the whole benefit of having a pre-qualification program and understanding, if you do have small contractors as subcontractors, what you might need to do to help them get up to speed. By not giving them a safety program, but helping them understand what they need to be doing for their employees. So,
yeah. And I don't think, you know, it's funny because I didn't add the resources, but you could probably speak to us as well. Like, what can our insurance brokers do to help us?
a lot of people don't utilize their insurance brokers effectively. So their insurance brokers can provide free loss control and safety training services in many cases, or give you access to online training materials, or connect you with your carrier. You know, people think to reach out to their work comp carrier, and maybe that's Pinnacle Assurance, maybe it's somebody else. But if you look at some of the other carriers like Travelers and Zurich, they have a lot of really good resources available that they can share with companies, including even free silica pump rentals and things like that. And there's all kinds of services that you could be asking your carriers and your brokers for before you go and pay somebody else for the service.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. I wrote this down so I can add it to this for the next time around. Yeah. I'm glad you piped in. So just, you can interrupt me anytime. Thank you. All right, so best practices. I kind of divided this between employers and employees, right? What can employers do? Well, obviously we want to continue to educate our employees so that we can protect them. Providing the proper resources when they're out there is going to be huge. The right safety equipment for the right jobs. And then doing some of those on-site inspections, you know, look for unprotected sides, wall openings, floor holes, improper use of scaffolding, other things that might affect you when you fall, like unguarded protruding steel rebars. So different things there. And then of course the misuse of portable ladders. Large employers, large sites need to also have rescue plans, and not just large, but everyone. You know, if your employee falls, if they're using some type of equipment even, or they're working on a roof, if they've fallen and they're hanging there, how do you get them down? Have you thought about how you're going to get them down? So that's going to be important to really work through, understand, and identify how you would get somebody down if they're hanging there now in their fall protection. Employees, you know, we want to encourage employees to participate again in their own safety, understand specific fall hazards based on the job that they're doing. So they need to understand it and really take the time to ensure that they're working safely. I've seen it, and Trish has also seen it. So Trish and I work together. For those of you that don't know, she's our executive director here at CSA. We worked with a company and witnessed their workers working on roofs, residential roofing, with their fall protection, and they're using it completely inadequately, that if they would have tripped and fallen, they would have hit the ground anyways. Trish, maybe you can expand on that a little bit. What were the reasons that they said they were working like that? Do you remember?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I mean, they were using rope grab systems, and they were also tying their D-ring to their side D-ring, right? Not to the not to the dorsal D-ring. And it was a solar company, and it had something to do with part of it was their perception of risk, you know, and they were trying to use their rope grab system as like a positioning device, but they were not pulling the slack in their rope. And some of that is, you know, just that unintentional complacency that you get when you do a task over and over again. You never get injured doing it. And so the brain actually starts seeing it as a non-hazardous activity, which just happens to us every time we get in the car and start driving, right?
Right.
You start tuning out and thinking about everything you have to do all day, and you're not doing it intentionally. Your brain just puts that risk in the lower filing cabinet drawer because it doesn't see it as something you need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
So some of it was that, I think. But yeah, it was just the wrong equipment for the wrong risk. And some of that too is the employee is given the equipment and they don't understand that maybe it's not the appropriate equipment. So it was a corporate decision also, which kind of fed into the whole thing.
Yeah. It was, definitely.
Yeah.
I remember
piecework, right? They were being paid by how many kilowatt hours of panels they installed, much like a roofer who's getting paid for how many squares they install, or a drywaller for how many sheets they hang. Piecework is a disincentive for working safe, I think. That's in my opinion, but I think there's research to back that up as well.
Yeah, true. And I remember, you know, asking him, I talked to one of the guys and I said, you know, the way that you're using this, if you trip and fall, you're going to hit the ground. He said, yeah, I know. He completely knew, but he didn't want to, tighten up on the slack because of the way that he was working. He's just like, I just have to be able to walk all over the whole roof at any point in time. So it was interesting. And, you know, maybe that wasn't the right equipment for him to use up there. You know, maybe having the rope grab system wasn't appropriate. So it was fun and interesting to see that. And hopefully they have made some adjustments after our visit, right? But anyways, thanks for sharing that, Trish. You know, with employees, again, part of it is having the right equipment. So if they identify hazards, things that aren't protected, you know, how do you as an employer help them to get the right equipment that works for their situation? So that's a good one too. You know, taking action can mean a lot of things. And sometimes that means stopping work when things are unsafe. And I feel like we don't talk enough about what are the things that would initiate a stop work? What does that look like? And how do we enable our employees to have a voice to say something, things like that. And then lastly, with employees, we also want to really kind of, want to ensure that they know how to inspect their safety equipment, take a look at those daily, and again, remind them that if something isn't working properly, that's a stop work. They need to come to the employer and get a replacement piece of equipment. So those are just some real quick and easy things that we could do. I wanted to share a couple other things before we move on. And does anybody have any questions that we might want to bring up right now? Any questions, anything specific you might be looking for? I'm just going to be super quiet. All right. I'm including this newsletter in the email that I'm sending out. This is from our local OSHA Region 8 specialist, John Aliachea. He sends us out quarterly. And so this one right here is about 3 pages long. You can see on page 2 that it was bringing up attention to the National Fall Stand Down that we're doing today. For us, it goes on all week. So hopefully you can share some of this information with your employees in this week as well. Also, great information about the National Emphasis Program for Heat Illness. So if you don't know what that is, you might want to take a look at that. We're getting ready to enter the summer months where heat illness becomes more likely, and ways to prevent that. So this is a great resources right here. Let me grab another thing I wanted to share, which is OSHA.gov Stop Falls Stand Down. Lots of resources here. So if you need something specific, maybe you're looking for something I didn't cover, you can go to this website as well and find lots of resources that you might be able to use in your work for your employees. And I think that's about all I have to share with everybody today. Anything else? Any last thoughts do you'd like to share, Trish, before we close out today?
I guess we really tend to focus on falls from heights and falls to other levels, but there's something like 20%, or I can't remember the exact number. I was just looking at it yesterday.
Oh, the slips, trips, and falls.
Yeah, that are falls, slip and fall on the same level. And looking at your job site and making sure that it's managed properly. I worked with an iron steel erection company a number of years ago, and if I said their name, everybody would know who they are, because they were kind of a leader in fall safety in the Colorado and nationally, really.
Mm-hmm.
And they had someone trip and fall he fell backwards on a job site, and there were some bolts sticking up out of the foundation that were going to be used to set a beam. And he hit the bolt with the back of his head, and it was a very severe head injury. And because he was falling backwards, his hard hat fell off and everything. So just being aware of things like that and protecting those kinds of exposures, making sure housekeeping is good and that people are covering, even if it's a bolt and it's not, you can put a rebar cap on something like that and it might, help with an incident like that. So it was a pretty severe injury. It was really unfortunate.
Yeah, that sounds horrible. That sounds horrible. And, it's interesting that you brought up the incident with the hard hat, because, I think that there's been I recently attended a different safety council meeting where they're talking about the transition from hard hats to safety helmets.
Mm-hmm.
And many construction sites are actually going to those in an effort to keep the head protected at all times, right? We know that once we fall, that hard hat goes flying, right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
and the helmets can be those can be good because they give you side protection as well as just top of the head protection. But working with a traffic control company that said that they've gone to those helmets now because they had a guy fall off the back of the truck, and had he been wearing a hard hat, he wouldn't have had the injury that he had. Like, yeah, but what about if he didn't fall off the back of the truck to begin with?
Right.
That was my question is, okay, we can put a hard hat on the guy, but how do we keep the guy from falling to start with? Because there was definitely an issue with the way he was doing the work.
Right.
So that was not a very popular question, but I asked it anyway, because like, let's just go to the heart of the matter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I am a proponent for the safety helmets. I like them. I think that they're great. They're getting better and better all the time, and the costs are coming down as well. And they're making a lot of them in the United States now. So that's a great thing as well. Well, thanks, Trish, for jumping in and co-teaching with me. I appreciate that, and super glad everybody was able to attend today. If anybody else wants to comment or share anything or ask questions, feel free. Otherwise, I think that we will go ahead and end this just a few minutes short, and I will be sure to send information to all of you through email. All right, no questions.
Thanks, Tanya.
Thanks, Trish. Thank you, everybody, for attending. We look forward to seeing you at some of our future trainings. So have a wonderful day.
Thanks.
Thanks.